Howdy, howdy, Jordan Sheridan live. Status Coup. It is Wednesday, December 10th in the fascist states of America. Joining me is our co-pilot as of late, getting over the flu, but still wonderful. Zaina Day, great journalist, author of the Bullhorn Bulletin Substack, which you got to subscribe to before the holidays. The link is in the description. You have a new piece coming out that we're going to talk about later?
A book?
A book, peace book. This is what happens when you don't. This is what happens when you don't sleep. Anyway, a new book coming out that's going to be released, I believe, chapter by chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
I'm doing it at periodical. So
we'll talk about that later. We also have coming up later, Sabby Sabs. She is a commentator, journalist. Has her own YouTube channel that I've been on before. And she has a great documentary. I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen it yet, but I saw the trailer. You did see it, correct?
Yes, it's fantastic.
All about essentially erasing Black people in Boston and the wider gentrification crisis, which I can tell you is happening all over this country. I've seen it everywhere I've been. So her trailer specifically focuses, her film specifically focuses on Boston and how essentially capitalists in conjunction with the politicians they buy off are seizing the land to drive Black and poor people out of Boston. So looking forward to having her on a little bit later. I'm so glad Jordan isn't sick anymore. I would be glad if I wasn't. I am sick, but I'm barreling through. I cannot get rid of this. Fuck whatever this is. It's not COVID, but it's something. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. It sucks. Anyway,
it's been going around, unfortunately.
Yes. Smash the like button, share this live stream. We are still on the ground. So John Farina is gallivanting around Minneapolis still. He got great footage, which we're going to go over today. Yesterday, where now ICE is adding vehicular manslaughter or homicide, either way, to their terror campaign. They're just literally running over with their vehicles people. Whether you're a resident, a protester, an immigrant, a citizen, doesn't matter. They're running you over, which, by the way, could hurt you or kill you. So we have that footage, and they're then pepper spraying you after running you over. So this is happening in America, right? We also have great coverage JT has done over the last few days of Trump's, I would say, terror campaign against the Somali community and the Afghan community in Minneapolis, which has the most Somalis in the country there. And we'll show you Trump is now, I mean, Ilhan Omar has already had rampant death threats against her life as a congresswoman. Now Trump is upping the ante by calling for her deportation at a unhinged rally last night. So we're going to get into all that. If we have time.
Status Coup News has been the only one that I have seen that has been to almost every city that Trump has from city to city to city.
I think that's a great. I didn't even send you a check yet for that promotion. That is a great point because we have been, let me take off my glasses here. We have been on the ground, see the bags, in Los Angeles, down at Alligator Alcatraz, New York City, DC, Chicago, Charlotte, and now Minneapolis. Since May, June? So we're talking over 6 months. We've been on the ground covering what I think is a fascist invasion by the federal government of the sovereign states and circuits, whatever DC is, of America. And it is a terror campaign. That's why we have been covering it, obviously, more than anything else we cover, because of all the disasters, of all the crises going on, I can't really think of something bigger or more important than the federal government basically tossing the laws out and just terrorizing not just immigrants, but Americans too. ProPublica has done a report that they have wrongly detained as many as 200 American citizens. I'm positive it's more than that. It's very hard to kind of keep track of all this. I know that they have detained, and I've reported Native Americans, which are more American than any of us. I just did a report earlier today that's up about how a Native American tribe tried to kind of sell out to ICE, but the outcry was so ferocious that they are now backtracking. But I want to, and again, smash the like button, share this live stream. I want to be clear. and I'll say this later as the audience builds up. At the end of the day, this reporting is crucial, and this reporting, I believe, is more important than most of the other bluster and bullshit that goes on YouTube and podcasts and TikTok among influencers and this and that. I do not see other outlets at the rate, the consistency that we are out there. Of course, there's independent journalists here and there, documentary filmmakers. There is no other outlet, mainstream or independent, and we are independent, that is on the ground across this country. And I'm going to be honest with you, I spent most of this morning and a lot of yesterday trying to find funding within our values. We're not going to just take corporate funding, but trying to find some funding to keep going, because this is so expensive. Zaina, you know it, having been involved with political campaigns, but just the travel alone, not even the payroll, not even paying our people, but just the travel alone is incredibly, incredibly expensive. So if you're not yet a paying Status Coup member, I don't know what you're waiting for. If you don't have as little as $5 a month, no problem. If you can't afford it, no shame. But if you do have, you can become a paying member for as low as $5 a month. What the fuck is your excuse? Hate to be so crass. Support living, breathing, independent justice journalism for as low as $5 a month. If we don't, I'm just going to be straight up. If we don't grow our paid membership faster and bigger, we're going to have to slow down. And that would suck, because we don't want the terror that's been going on to happen in a void. Sure, there's people that capture it with their phones and pop it on social media. Not the same thing as journalists being on the ground in the trenches. All right, let's start with, I don't know if you saw this, Zaina. So John is on the ground. He's kind of going around Minneapolis, St. Paul. Trump has sent his ICE goons there. Why? We don't know. Apparently because Somalis live there. And yesterday, there wasn't even a protest. They're just raiding a community. They are literally running over residents. And as they run over the residents, laughing hysterically about it. Play that clip, Colin.
Which clip was that? Sorry, again.
The running over the resident.
Get a new job, you fucking loser! Stop it!
Hey, watch where you spray that!
He's a German immigrant!
Did that clip play all the way for you?
I think so.
Okay. For me, it stopped. But so if you saw that, literally, they are running over with their car. I would guess that car had to be going 15 to 20 miles an hour, maybe. Which, if you've ever been hit by it, I was in in a toll booth once, and a car hit me from behind, going 15, 20 miles an hour. I had whiplash for a couple weeks getting hit as I was parked in my car at a toll booth, getting hit that fast. This is somebody getting run over with a car going 15, 20 miles an hour.
They're out of control. They're out of control.
And putting aside, because there's going to be MAGA people, I already see it in the chat, oh, that's not running over. There's going to be people who minimize it. Whether or not that can cause injury, it obviously can. If I ran somebody over and was caught on camera, haha, wipeout. That's what they said, haha, wipeout. I mean, I'd be in jail awaiting trial. If it was a brown person, a black person, forget it. They might even skip the trial. But you have government officials running people over. It clearly wasn't an accident. They're laughing, screaming, wipeout. And by the way, the people who say stay out of the way, this is their community. This was not like a protest. they are raiding a community, you're allowed to be in the street. And I don't think, based on the video, that person jumped in front of the car.
No.
They literally ran them over. So when you say stay out of the way, I mean, what are you, homicidal, the people who say this? And I love the people saying who said, I voted for this. You voted for vehicular manslaughter? You voted for government officials creating roadkill out of, these aren't even protesters, just people in the community who live in that neighborhood. How does this improve your life? How does this lower grocery prices, utility, electric bills, childcare, healthcare? How does this improve anybody's life other than, giving some shits and giggles and laughs to racist bigots who watch Fox News or Steve Bannon or et cetera, et cetera. But they didn't stop saying that, running them over. Mm-hmm. They then pepper sprayed the people in this community that they're trying to indiscriminately raid people. Let's show that, Colin.
Oh, come on! Come on! It's right, it's right. Everyone's throwing shit. Yeah, we're good. Hey, fuck you, man! I got you on video. I got your face, motherfucker. I got your face, motherfucker.
Watch your back. You guys see what the fuck's happening? Shut up. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, exactly. Watch your back. Watch your back. Another car. One more car. One more car.
So that's our cameraman, John Farina, not only getting the footage, but then playing traffic, traffic person trying to prevent other people from getting hit by ICE cars that are literally driving. By the way, I don't know, do you not know speed? Somebody said, oh, that's no more than 5 miles an hour. 5 miles an hour, the car's not moving, basically. They're not driving 5 miles an hour. The speed that they hit that person, to me, looked like 15 to 20 miles an hour. But putting that aside, they come out and pepper spray someone. I think the female officer who came out to pepper spray thought she was going after the person who threw a snowball at the car, which, knowing this government, they'll call that fucking terrorism, throwing a snowball at the car. They got the wrong person. So they were pepper spraying multiple times somebody who did not throw the snowball at the car. Putting aside, I don't think you should be pepper sprayed for throwing a snowball.
That's ridiculous.
But, it's just, at this point, this has been so normalized under this terrorist regime. I don't think it's dramatic to say that. It's been so normalized that they are shooting rubber bullets in sniper's position from the top of these ICE prisons at a crowd of protesters, firing off flashbangs and stun grenades, pepper balls. By the way, as I pointed out, Zaina, they could call it less lethal or non-lethal. Hey, ask the people at Standing Rock or others who have been shot point blank range by rubber bullets or flashbangs or stun grenades or pepper balls. You could get seriously injured or worse.
Just look back at Tina Desiree Berg's coverage in LA that we did just a few months ago. The Status Coup did just a few months ago. We saw what kind of damage these quote unquote non-lethal ammunitions do.
So this is basically, it's just a game of whack-a-mole. John and JT, wherever they go, again, they've been in Chicago, Charlotte, Minneapolis in recent weeks, thanks to you, the people who are supporting us. So again, $5 a month, you could support us, statuscoup.com/join. I love giving shout outs for people when they sign up while we're live. So please sign up. But at a certain point, this violence only escalates. And as you have a president who, listen, we got to be consistent here. We were both very critical of Biden. We both pointed out clearly something was going on cognitively. I didn't diagnose him, but it was very clear he was not sending his best, shall we say. Well, it's also very clear Trump is fading quickly. He's falling asleep. He is getting angrier and angrier, which is connected to some illnesses like dementia. He doesn't make sense when he speaks. He rambles a lot, which he always did, but it's getting worse. And now he's insulting female journalists as Miss Piggy, or screaming at a journalist, "Shut up, Piggy," calling for Ilhan Omar to be deported. So it comes from the top.
His rants the last few days have been completely unhinged.
So I fear we're going to see more violence. And at a certain point, if you have a Supreme Court that has said, essentially, you get out of jail free card indefinitely, Trump, he has immunity, and he has basically made a mockery of the pardoning power. He could basically pardon all of ICE, all of Border Patrol, anyone he wants on the way out for their crimes. Why are we to think they can't start shooting real bullets at some point? Once he declares the Insurrection Act, which I think he's going to do probably at some point next year, do we really think this is going to stop at rubber bullets? We really think it's going to stop?
He's made 3 separate executive orders. It's made it clear that it's not going to, with what he's labeled as terrorism. Anything that they want to label as left-wing, Democratic Party adjacent, terrorist, protesters are labeling as terrorists now. So, and this is under, policy for the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. And said multiple times in different executive orders, as one as far back as 6 months ago, that they will use whatever force is necessary. But what they're considering terroristic threatening are things like yelling in the face of ICE, which is absolutely insane.
We'll play more clips in a bit, but I want to give you some more updates. Now, Trump's administration is demanding to see 5 years of media history for tourists from 42 countries. Let me repeat. They want tourists coming here to submit their social media history of 5 years. This is from CBS. The Trump administration is proposing to ask visitors from several dozen nations that enjoy visa-free travel to the U.S. to submit additional personal information before entering the country, including 5 years of their social media history. DHS said in a notice this week, citizens of 42 countries enrolled in the visa waiver program can generally come to the U.S. for up to 90 days for tourism or business without needing to apply for a visa at an American embassy. The list of countries of the new waiver program will include the United Kingdom, Germany, France, as well as U.S. allies, Australia, Israel, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea. So I guess we're now, instead of actually having these agencies, investigate domestic terror threats, white supremacist threats, political violence threats, we're going to have agents rummaging through the social media of people who want to come here to see if they are, anti-Trump or too liberal. I mean, this is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard, Zaina.
Our economy is already in the shitter, right? Our economy is in the shitter, and now they want to take a hit, and people are already not wanting to come here. People are already not wanting to come here to visit, and now you're going to do this to hamper the tourism industry that is already suffering when our economy is in the shitter. It's ridiculous. And this pretends like there is no Interpol, there is no kind of mechanisms already to screen people that we've used in the past. It's insane. And also, it feels very unconstitutional because the Constitution doesn't just protect U.S. citizens, it protects anyone that's on our soil.
Well, apparently it's new foreign policy that you cannot criticize Donald Trump and enter America. I mean, that's beyond even like Orban or Putin. I don't think they have their thugs like scrolling through fucking Twitter to make sure you haven't criticized dear leader. It's just, it's apeshit.
Is this just a new contract for Oracle or Palantir, Jordan? I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm going to.
That's a great point, and you're probably right. It probably has something to do with that. Again, smash the like button, share this live stream. I want to play some more clips. Again, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the chat, there's no other outlet that's been all across this nation in the last 6 or so months. LA, Alligator Alcatraz, New York City, DC, Chicago, Charlotte, now Minneapolis. It's been incredibly expensive. I think people, because we live in this digital diarrhea where everybody, their mother and their dog have a YouTube channel, a podcast, a TikTok channel. They're just kind of used to just getting content for free, really. But the reality is this is not content. This is journalism. Those two things are very different. Of course, it's content, like it's on these platforms, but we are actually going out and in many cases putting our bodies on the line. JT and John, in my view, both deserve awards. So does Tina, who's done great work for us in LA. We're out there in the trenches showing you the ugly face of fascism. It's incredibly, incredibly important, and it's incredibly expensive. I mean, once I go through the books at the end of the year, which I hate doing because it sucks that in addition to the journalism, I have to actually like run the company, which is not so fun, but you know, there's worse things in life. I would venture to guess we probably, just on the ICE coverage, probably spent well over $60,000 to $70,000 on travel,
That's
freelancers.
4 cities in less than 90 days.
And
4
DC.
different cities in less than 90 days.
So I want, for those of you watching, think about it like, you know, these live streams, when it's all said and done, not just live, but after, generally, you know, it depends. Some are more, but generally we'll get like 10 to 20,000 views on this live stream, right? If even just 300 to 400 people who viewed this live stream become paying members for as low as $5 a month, and I'm not saying that's nothing. Not everyone has $5 a month, which is 16 cents a day, by the way. If you don't have that, totally understand. But maybe you, if you think about it, you pay $5 a month on something else. You might pay $5 a week on something else. You might pay $5 a day on something else that you're just forgetting, because some of us just have subscriptions to things and we forget. But if you really go through what you're spending money on, I'm not talking about like stuff for your kids or crucial things, but just things for yourself. There's got to be something that could be reallocated, or shall I say, dare I say, Zaina, redistributed to real, living, breathing, independent journalism. So please,
all of us have some subscription that we find that is hanging out there that we can move over.
Yes.
Sadly, so, I'm poor and I still have one of those probably somewhere.
So I'm going to leave it to you, the masses of the proletariat. It's up to you. Straight up. We're going to have to slow down at some point because we can't. I mean, we've been spending more money than we're taking in, and you don't have to do like, you know, economics 101. If you keep spending more than you're taking in, you have to turn the lights off. Anyway, let's play whatever clip you got next, Colin, of our reporting on the ground in Minneapolis.
Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. They'll take care of it, guys, just so no one's concerned about the neighbors. Oh, yeah, we'll go local.
What's the thing on the way? Someone flew up the alley.
There was a man.
Oh, better angle.
Why are you guys here? Don't worry, we'll talk to the locals. They'll upset. They don't show up. No, but here. Specifics. Why are you here?
Don't worry.
Why are you here if it was a local police Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas. Get the fuck out of here! Leave!
Yeah, you get the fuck out of here! Piece of shit!
And welcome. Apparently, a few people are taking my call or heeding my call. Virginia just signed up as a Status Coup member. Sweet Virginia. And Emily just signed up. So now we're humming. Let's keep it going.
Thank you.
Virginia, Emily. I also want to point out, because you brought it up, Zaina, we have some of these stats. Colin, if you could put up on the screen this tweet, Trump's golden era economy. His administration has canceled the jobs report, the inflation report, and the GDP report. Can you imagine, Zaina, the fucking nuclear meltdown that would happen on Fox News if Joe Biden canceled anything indicating what the economy was? They'd be calling for impeachment. This man.
Guess what? On top of that, the OIG is basically completely dismantled, the Office of Inspector General. So he cancels all the reports, and the OIG is completely dismantled. So
the economy is falling off a cliff. To be fair, it was already an economic Hunger Games before Trump, because we live in a fucking economic Hunger Games, and it's bipartisan. The Democrats are screwing you. The Republicans are screwing you. We have an oligarchy, as Princeton University said in 2014. They produced a study that said we don't have a democracy. We have an oligarchy. So let's not just paint it on Trump. It's certainly getting worse under Trump, but it's not just Trump. So he's canceled. Basically, he's hiding how bad the economy is by canceling these reports, which is unprecedented. Then you have, just look at the percentages here. This is the next tweet, Colin. Don't let $3 gas distract you from the fact that milk is up 36%, bread 28%, coffee 26%, beef is 15%. I've seen some measures that it's even higher than that. Insurance 8%, bananas, which he apparently doesn't know we can't make here, 7%, and electricity is up 6%. But by the way, if you look at all these AI data centers, which if we have time, we're going to cover that today too, electricity costs are up a lot more than 6% if you live near a data center. So people can't afford groceries. People can't afford housing. Good luck even buying a house. If you're under 40, forget it, buying a house. With the interest rates, people can't afford their utilities bills. People can't afford child care. As I just did an interview with Michael Leidy, he's a fellow with the Sanders Institute, a healthcare expert. Those Obamacare premiums are about to, in some cases, double at the beginning of the year. And it's not just people on Obamacare. If you get healthcare from your employer, if you are an employee, you get your healthcare from your employer, you're going to have to pay more money into your more money is coming out of your paycheck, basically, because healthcare is going to go up 6 to 7% for employees. So it's not just Obamacare.
The subsidies are ending, basically.
Yes.
You know, the Obamacare subsidy floating when he privatized our healthcare. In our healthcare, we had some private healthcare before Obama, or public healthcare before Obama. He privatized everything, and now that they're eroding those subsidies, it's going to be even more expensive than it already was. And deductibles are the big part. You know, no one's talking about the deductibles, but those are set to skyrocket as well.
And then I want to show this. Not good news for job seekers. The hiring rate fell back to 3.2% in October. This is one of the lowest hiring rates since the Great Recession, which was basically another Great Depression in a different name. That's when unemployment was 7% or higher. Yes, job openings ticked up in October, but it doesn't matter if it's not leading to actual hiring. Keep a eye on the hiring rate. And why aren't there more hiring? Because literally the Trump administration, which once the chaos and the carnival end, once he's gone, we kind of do a postmortem on every single scandal and every single crisis and all the corrupt acts, which might take us. I don't even know if we'll be alive to do that, because it would take our whole lifetimes to go through all of that mess. I think one of the most scandalous things from the Trump administration is that they literally are providing government welfare, i.e. corporate welfare, to big tech to create massive artificial intelligence to then lay off the masses. That's literally what's happening. Our government is spending, it's going to go down trillions of dollars. Right now, it's hundreds of billions to basically create all of these data centers and all of this AI infrastructure to create a jobless economy. I wasn't a big fan of Andrew Yang, but I'll give him his due. He was right about this. He warned we're going to have an automated jobless economy. I didn't think his version of universal basic income was the right one.
But he estimated in 2015, he said within the next decade.
Yes. So
Man wasn't wrong about that.
all of these crises, and let me show you some more, thanks to Colin or Michelle, whoever did this, I forget. I mean, polls find nearly majority of Americans say groceries harder to afford today. Bottom 60% of U.S. households don't make enough money to afford a, quote, minimal quality of life. Hiring at its lowest level since 2009. What was going on then? Economic collapse and ruin. Millions being foreclosed upon. Serious credit card delinquencies, highest in 14 years. Could go on. Late rental payments skyrocketing. Foreclosures up 14% in May. This is from a few months ago. It's probably worse. U.S. homelessness hit a record high last year. So that's 2023 they're talking about. Excuse me, it was up 18% in 2024 from 2023. I'm going to venture to guess it's even worse this year. And that's kind of hard to even measuring homelessness is often difficult because you're basically trying to find people when they are out in the streets, and that fluctuates. B, it does not incorporate people who couch surf, which is a significant portion of unhoused people. So at the end,
move in with family while they're in between housing. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I give you all this because all of this is like your whole fucking block is on, every house is on fire and the fire department is stopping for ice cream. This is the equivalent of what this ice terror is. Only the ice cream is like, scorched fucking earth. This is not a distraction at this point. It is literally the fire department avoiding going to where the fires are. The real fire is economic, not brown people, not immigrants, but the distraction is the point, on top of the cruelty, obviously, being the point. Your thoughts?
Well, you mentioned a minute ago, they're also taking a flamethrower to people visiting this Christmas and then after this holiday season to our tourism. If they're going to look at people's 4-year social media history, people are just going to opt not to come here.
Yep. And let me show you more of the details on this, booming economy, or as Trump says, A++. He just, in an interview, gave it an A+++.
Well, beyond affordability, there are growing concerns about the job market. A leading consulting firm says U.S. employers announced nearly 1.2 million layoffs as of December 1st. That is the highest level since the pandemic and the most since the start of the Great Recession. Payroll processor ADP says the private sector lost 32,000 jobs last.
Yeah, but Ilhan Omar, Somalis. Speaking of, I hate to do it, but we should show you. If you didn't see, Colin, let's play what he said in his unhinged rant yesterday about Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
To the people, not to the insurance
companies. So right
companies.
now people are buying their holiday presents,
Ilhan Omar.
Once I'm looking, it was a Trump clip.
Yeah,
give me one minute.
It's at the bottom. Trump, Minnesota. I wonder if Colin has already had too much eggnog today.
And that's from Minnesota, That's called the Great Big Minnesota Scam with one of the dumbest governors ever in history. I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, does nothing but bitch. She's always complaining. She comes from a country where, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? They have no military, they have no nothing, they have no parliament. They don't know what the hell the word parliament means. They have nothing, they have no police. They police themselves, they kill each other all the time. I love it. She comes to our country And she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother. Can you imagine?
So you get the point. I don't even need to dig the
why the hell is he still having rallies? That's some authoritarian. That's some authoritarianness right there. That's some
number one,
behavior.
Well, he's flailing. He's trying to cover up the Epstein files. The economy's in the shitter. He's being criticized as being too old and, cognitively declining. So he kind of wants to go do his best hits with, his core, the core of his base, which eat this bigotry up. We should point out, no, she did not marry her brother. That's been debunked time and time again. Two, what he's doing is going to accelerate increased death threats. And we have seen political violence. Congresswoman Omar already has to spend resources on security for her and her family because the president of the United States is inciting violence against her. And not because I have a lot of love for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't really buy this extreme makeover she's been doing. But I guess for her, her breaking point was after Trump called her Marjorie Trader Greene, her son was getting direct death threats. Can you imagine what Ilhan Omar gets? 2, 3, he's saying she's bitching. This is a man who launched his presidential campaign. Basically, all he does is bitch about immigrants, about America getting ripped off. It's bitch, bitch, bitch from Trump. But he wants to point out and note he's saying bitch, bitch, bitch about a woman, which is not a coincidence.
I can tell you a very short story. Back in 2019, Trump retweeted a guy that said that brand new Congress, and he had me tagged in the tweet as well as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that brand new Congress was funded by George Soros. Trump retweets it, and for 7 months, I received death threats. Just from one simple retweet one time. So I can't even imagine. If that's the fallout from one retweet one time with my name in it, what she's experiencing.
It's just beyond the pale. And I would really ask MAGA, because I've been around the country, right? I covered Trump's campaign in 2016, 2020, lesser degree 2024. I've been to probably 50 to 60 of his rallies, MAGAville. And I've had some decent interviews and exchanges. They're not all crazy in MAGA. A lot of them are just like my parents. They're great people, but they're just super naive and very misinformed when it comes to politics. But I would really ask MAGA, number one, based on the polls, a lot of MAGA voted for him because they believed the economy was better under him in his first term than Biden, and he was going to lower prices. Well, he's been in office for about a year. He's calling high prices a con job, whatever that means. I mean, the prices are either high or they're not. They're clearly high all over this country. Are these rallies or this ICE terror campaign, is it lowering prices for you? Is your biggest issue in life brown people living in cities and communities who may have come without documents, which, by the way, is a misdemeanor, but you don't care about the actual felons like Wall Street bankers that tanked your economy? Fossil fuel executives that poison your water, air, soil, and animals, pharmaceutical executives like the Sacklers, who literally killed hundreds of thousands of people. They're not in jail. Is Trump sending ICE after them? Big tech vultures who their addictive algorithms that they intentionally are trying to addict teenagers is leading to an increase in suicide. Not to mention they're selling your private data. I mean, I could go on. We could get into the defense contractors, big agro. You only seem to have a problem with the crimes of brown people, but not the crimes of the oligarchs, because Trump is an oligarch. The people around him are oligarchs. He's literally pardoning every criminal oligarch there is. This is a man who's talking about, we're going to bomb the boats to kill the narco terrorists. as he's pardoning a narco-terrorist, the ex-president of Honduras, who literally was working with the cartels. You can't make this up. Like, how stupid can you be to support this nonsense?
He's also emboldening, like, ICE to just be bigoted, insane fools with his rhetoric. And that's part of our coverage. If you want to go back and watch what's happening in Minnesota as a fallout from Trump's rhetoric, we've caught a lot of it. We have been catching ICE's behavior. John Farina has been catching it. JT has been catching it on the ground. So if you want to see the fallout of some of this rhetoric, you can go. We see it directly with ICE every day. Our journalists are, first the Status Coup journalists are. And it's emboldening them to treat people like garbage. I mean, his tweets basically called, because one group of Somali individuals from Somalia originally are now indicted on charges of fraud. Every single person from Somalia, he basically called them all migrants from Somalia. He called them all thieves and said that they were all extorting and carrying, that the entire state of Minnesota is a fraud ring. Absolute insanity, unhinged. Now imagine if he said that about any other group. If somebody of Italian lineage did fraud, then you said all Italians. If somebody of, I don't know, as somebody who's Dutch, does that mean that every person who's a Dutch migrant is guilty of fraud? But this is coming from the president of the United States. And it's getting to a point, and it has been long past a point, where none of this should be normalized anymore.
But
it's
I want to be clear.
It's dangerous, and it's not helping any of us at all.
But I also want to be clear. I want to be clear where we're headed. And this isn't like, rah Democrats. If you watch this channel, you know we're not on either fucking team sport here. But to be clear, as currently constituted, there's going to be a tidal wave in 2026. Less than a year from now, the Democrats are likely taking back the House, maybe the Senate too. Governor's races, because I don't see economically, I don't think things are going to get much better if he doesn't drop all these tariffs, and it doesn't seem like he's going to do that anytime soon. So the Democrats are going to win, and probably win big. But Trump right now is laying the groundwork. We know about the election denialism. He's already put in place in the government some of the top election deniers. But what he's doing right now is going to stoke serious violence, because he is ginning people up, whether it's attacking Omar, Governor Tim Walz, Mark Kelly, whatever he calls a seditious six who made a video telling servicemen not to obey illegal orders. I can't keep track of all the politicians, all the people he's going after. Well, when the Republicans lose significantly, and clearly Trump is going to claim a lot of it was rigged, it's going to trigger quite a few unhinged nut jobs to go after these people. And at the end of the day, we've already seen from Charlie Kirk to other political violence, even before that, things that got less attention. Last year, the FBI office in Cincinnati was shot up by a Trump supporter. Might have been it was this year or last year. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. There has been a lot more violence coming from the right, and they are Trump supporters. So I think what he's doing, this is kind of like the calm before the storm. We're already seeing. Hell, I'm live right now, literally breaking news. As I'm live right now, I'm being told that ICE threatened John, our cameraman, with pepper spray and barred him from approaching a press area during a large raid. When he asked whether other press can be in that area but not him, ICE replied, "They're with us." So not only maybe their film crew for their propaganda videos, I don't know. But not only are they running.
They have brought these, and we've covered it. I know that John's covered it on the ground. They're bringing these groypers, these right-wing podcasters on the ground to film what they're doing, but to do, like you said, propaganda. So now they're going to relegate only their hand-chosen press at any given moment. And they've been kind of doing this, but That's crazy. That's where we're at. Not only in the press corps at the White House, not only at the Pentagon, which we saw last week, but now even on the ground, they have their own selected propaganda. And I can think of other people who did this before. Mussolini, he did this.
Stalin did
Stalin.
it. Thank you, Gene. Just gifted 5 Status Coup YouTube memberships. So 5 viewers will randomly become members. Thanks to Gene. Again, this is a journalist. He does great work. John is the one that got the historic footage on January 6th of that police officer's head rammed into the door. It went super viral. Every outlet picked it up from us. He's been at more MAGA rallies than he'd probably like to share. He's covered a lot of the escalating fascism and violence over the last 5-6 years. Now ICE is threatening him, a journalist. He has his credentials on him for essentially getting too close to showing their terror, which is within his right in the First Amendment, which Trump seems to think is optional to follow. And he has a Supreme Court who's basically said, yes, sir, you could break whatever law you want and the Constitution doesn't apply to you. And he was in Ukraine. Thank you, whoever pointed that out. It's scary times, Zaina. It's really scary times. And I have to say, I don't want to do a false equivalency. Right now, the Republican Party, I mean, it's not even close. The Republican Party is clearly worse than the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party, the kind of MAGA light, is not how you get out of fascism. The Democratic Party, I don't hear enough from the Democratic Party against ICE. I don't see Democratic politicians out at these ICE protests. When we were covering the Chicago protests, protesters were demanding for Governor Pritzker to be out there and to do something about his state police helping ICE. They were arresting protesters who were peaceful and unarmed. They were helping ICE. They were basically clearing the road so ICE could bring in the people they kidnapped into the detention center. I mean, we could go on. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic Party's leader, his response to AI replacing all the jobs is to create an AI commission and appoint big tech sellouts like Josh Gottheimer, we'll get to that if we have time. So we don't really have an opposition party in this country, aside from, I mean, Bernie, a couple others who are kind of meeting the moment, but the actual leaders.
The new DNC platform is Ezra Klein's abundance theory. And I told you, did I not, Jordan, the day that his book came out, when I was reading it, you said you'd rather hit your head against a wall than read that. I said, I'm afraid this is going to be the new Democratic Party platform. It's just Reaganomics. It's just repackaged Reaganomics. And that is what they're going for. Repackaged Reaganomics. That's their solution.
Crazy. But I want to show you, because you're not going to see this in the mainstream media. JT was out there. By the way, it's cold in Minneapolis. They're live, and with the wind chill, it's basically like 5 degrees out. They were also reporting the other day during a blizzard, basically. But JT interviewed a couple people in the Somali community, and 2 women really stood out. I don't know if they were related or just friends, but this is who Trump is calling dumb and criminals and illegals. And many of them, by the way, are legal citizens of America. But I want to show you part of his interview with these 2 women, which I thought was very powerful.
My dad came here when he was 16 years old, right? And my mom did as well, like 2 years after. So born and raised here, and it's been a very consistent kind of understanding in the Minnesotan and Minneapolis community where Somalis have been welcome here, and we've always been a very large of the community. But I take public transportation to and from work every single day, and it's not really just the Somali community that's being affected. It's anyone who thinks that they fall in the precedence of being illegal or being concerned of being illegal. So when I'm on the public transportation this whole week, empty. There's barely anyone on there. Usually when I'm on the fucking D line, it's full to the brim of people coming to and from work. But now people are so scared to live their daily lives and make money and provide for their families so much that they literally don't go outside. And it's disgusting that they have to feel that way and that their families and themselves are getting punished for feeling that way. It's disgusting.
Yeah, so we are against ICE raids. We are against ICE as a whole. Like, it's like dehumanizing that people are like being snatched up off the street just for something as like, oh, they're quote unquote illegal, just because they don't have documents. That makes no sense. Like, people who are hardworking, these are hardworking people who come to this country for better lives, and then they do not deserve to be stripped off the street and like taken from their homes, taken from their children, just because of some racist. Sorry, I don't.
No, and I 100% agree with literally everything you just said. I agree with literally everything you just said. And being born and raised in this community and in this neighborhood, it's very disheartening and just disgusting to see people who have spent their entire livelihoods roaming these streets, using these shops, using these buildings, these parks, these sidewalks, being told that they can't be here.
The enemy is not your next door neighbors. It's not immigrants. Your enemy is going to be the government. When I say this, I mean is people in power who do nothing but harm you, they do not have your best interests at heart. They want to make your life as miserable as possible, and then while they benefit.
It's just crazy how backwards this fucking country is. Exactly. Like, if you're gonna treat every single person of color and immigrant like they're a criminal, then I'm gonna treat every single white man right. like they're a fucking school shooter. Exactly. If that's how the world's gonna work, that's how the world's gonna work. Right. And white people hate that. They hate it. Yeah. When it gets turned back onto them, they have this weird, like, oh, what? We're not all school shooters. Okay, well, I was born and raised here, and even if I wasn't, we are all civil, nice people just because there's a small, tiny demographic.
Yeah, you're correct.
And by the way, she mentioned something, and it brings up to me what Trump said in his rambling speech, lying about Ilhan Omar. But he talked about how Somalia, they just kill each other there. It's lawless. Like America, where we just go shoot up schools. We shoot up malls. We shoot up supermarkets. We shoot up schools. We shoot up concerts. But Somalia is some unique, lawless place. I'm sure it does have its problems, just like a shit ton of the other countries we've tried to coup and we've sanctioned and we have poached our drug war onto. But these folks are what's good about America, if you ask me. And by the way, if we want to start going through people's social media, are we going to go through Melania's social media since she came from somewhere else? Where did she come from? Sweden? I mean, plenty of people that are white that came from other countries. All of us, our lineage came from other countries. But it's just distraction's not even the word anymore. They're just weaponizing mass bigotry and hatred to distract first their base and misdirect. I think misdirection is the proper term. Misdirect their base, which includes old men on dialysis watching Fox News and their wives, which includes the younger bros who have been hoodwinked by Trump and sucked into that by Rogan and others who kind of have peas for brain, and just kind of make them focus on the brown people are taking your jobs, even though it's obvious that's not why the economy's in the shitter, while they, there's no other way to say it, rape and pillage your wallet and future. I mean, that's what's going on. By the way, we haven't even gotten to the fact that Don Jr. just got a $620, somebody would have to check me on this. I don't know if it was $1 million or $1 billion. I'm going to guess $1 million loan from the Defense Department. Not going to hold my breath on whether that loan is going to be paid back. Don Jr., while they were ranting and raving about Hunter Biden, who, by the way, was corrupt. To be clear, the whole Hunter Biden thing was corrupt. I don't hear a fucking pin drop from MAGA about
$620 million contract for a startup. So now, venture capitalism with federal funds.
And Jared Kushner, by the way, is somehow sitting with Putin negotiating an end to the war while his company is part of the hostile takeover bid to get, Warner Bros. his venture capital firm that got $2 billion from Saudi Arabia off of Trump. I mean, it's just one big fucking cesspool. What did George Carlin say? It's one big club and you ain't in it. Let's amend it. It's one big fucking cesspool and you are not in it.
It's a small club, but a big cesspool.
Oh.
Because the rest of us, 60% of us, can't even make ends meet, can barely keep a roof over our head and feed our families, and are losing jobs left and right. Almost 2 million jobs in a 90-day period is staggering. That's staggering. And then if you compound that with the more than 800,000 federal jobs that have been laid off.
And by the
how
way,
many people are out of work? We don't even know, because for one, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports have never been accurate. But the last time that we covered what Politico had reported, it was what was it, 27.6% underemployment rate, and that was almost a year ago.
And the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, I don't see a President Gavin Newsom in 2029. God forbid. That's probably what's going to happen in this fucked up country. I don't see him like rolling back all this AI stuff. Do you?
No, he's leaning into it.
Right. So like
they want to compete with China, apparently, according to them, but to whose benefit and for what reason?
And by the way, all of these data centers that are popping up, all of it, and I wish we had the time, we're going to have to do it in another video, all of these data centers to basically support the AI infrastructure. Well, that AI infrastructure is going, Colin, if you have the video real quick, we could show it. More Perfect Union just did a 5-month investigation, I believe, on basically AI price gouging. I think they're calling it surveillance pricing, where these AI apps are surveilling the same people. So if you're in a grocery store, if Zaina and I in a grocery store, Zaina's bar of soap might be $1.99. Mine might be $2.08. Same product. We're in the same store, but they are essentially surveilling our buying habits or what's going on in our lives. So there's been other reporting that they're surveilling these AI apps are surveilling your social media, your purchases. So they might know if you just lost a loved one and have to travel for a funeral. So you're gonna get a higher price on the airline website, or like Expedia, your price will be higher because they know you have to go. It's not a desire to go, but you have to go to your so basically this is just illegal price gouging via AI. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say Gavin Newsom did sign SB 53 back in September, advancing California's world-leading artificial intelligence industry, according to a press release from his own office. The TFAIA, authored by Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, carefully designed to enhance online safety by installing common sense guardrails of the development of frontier artificial intelligence models. However, it pours a ton of money into AI expansion. So while it looks good on the face because it looks like they are they're somehow monitoring AI, it's really just a cover to pour a bunch of money into it. So not great. Not great.
Well, at the very least, Zaina, I guess the blessing in disguise, they can't AI the general strike, which is going to come at some point. I mean, if they just lay off the masses, which right now, the highest unemployment rate in the country is college graduates, because the entry-level jobs are getting wiped out. Next will be the computer engineers, because AI is going to replace most computer jobs. And computer engineering, AI will be. So at some point, this will usher in some type of general strike, because at the same time, they're gutting healthcare and Medicaid. So when you lose your employee healthcare, because in this fucked up country, your healthcare is tied to a job, and there's really no safety net for you, people are going to have no other option but to get out there in the streets. I don't want to give false hope, because we haven't seen that yet. But when more people have nothing to lose, that's when a general strike happens. They can't exactly cancel that, or AI can't sabotage that, at least as far as I know yet. But it's just the government is literally creating the pitchforks against its own people through this AI.
But we're going to have to be creative, because if they can replace us with a bunch of machinery and AI, then the aim is to render the workforce moot.
Yep.
So that it doesn't matter if we strike, because they'll have something or something to replace us. That's scary, I know, and I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. Howard Lutnick literally came out and said this 7 months ago, that they're looking to anywhere from 25 to 45% of the workforce to be laid off within the next 3 years. That's insane. That's absolute insanity. And he had no solution. He is the Commerce Secretary and laughed about it. Or the labor secretary, laughed about it.
Who, by the way, lived right next to Jeffrey Epstein, but apparently knew nothing about his global.
They were good buddies, though.
Knew nothing about his global child sex trafficking wing. Wonder why that's Donald Trump doesn't want to release the Epstein files, besides him being in it, maybe trying to protect his boy Lutnick. I digress. Before I bring on our wonderful next guest, I do want to promote something else. The great Zaina Day has a book coming out tomorrow.
Yes, I have a book about the Bernie movement, Bernie Boom or Bust, 50 Things I Learned About Politics. It really is that stupid. That's the name of the book. And so I have the first chapter coming out, which kind of goes over my background at Brand New Congress, also dives into what the hell happened with AOC. And the next few chapters after that are all going to be lessons learned, how we can move forward, some of the problems that we have in electoralism today, and then other ways we can organize as well, and telling stories of what I saw behind the scenes so that maybe we could get off this hamster wheel that we keep running on over and over again. So that's the goal. But sign up to my Substack. You get the first chapter for free, and then the rest are for paid subscribers for now. And I may open up the book fully later, but one chapter will be coming out per week, and for the next 11 weeks.
And Zaina's saying it very nicely, like, sign up to my Substack. I'm demanding it. If you can, sign up to her Substack, because it's not just Status Coup that does this kind of work. Zaina's been in the trenches, through political activism, journalism for the last, longer than a decade, but I've known you about a decade. I think I met you at the Paul Eugene Swearingen event down in West Virginia back in the day.
Way back in the day.
Way back in the day.
Net roots. Yeah.
Yeah. So please support her Substack. Now, speaking of displacement, there is something, I don't even like the term, but it's called gentrification. I think it's really economic terrorism. And I've seen it across the country over the last 10 years, but it's really, really egregious. The worst of it is in major cities like Boston, Chicago, New York, DC, Cleveland, Milwaukee. I mean, it's everywhere. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but joining us now is the great Sabby Sabs, Sabrina Salvetti, and you're with your own channel on YouTube, which people should check out. You've been nice enough to have me on with Revolutionary Blackout Network, and you have a new documentary that just came out a few weeks ago that's focused on specifically your neck of the woods, Boston, and the Black erasure, which is the gentrification. I want to show the trailer for those that don't know about it yet. I admittedly haven't been able to watch it yet, but I saw the trailer and I thought it was really, really awesome. Let's show the trailer first.
Yes, Boston is home to winning sports teams and elite universities. But some might say that there are two Bostons.
If you look at City Hall, no one's talking about that specific racial and historical component that Black people are the ones that are being removed.
There's a huge significant difference in lived experiences, and we know this because of the wealth report. We're at $8.
This whole plan of gentrification isn't a new concept. In every city you go into in the Northeast, they kept moving Black people out of the inner city. So it's a plan. It's been in place for a long time.
While the displacement isn't as bad as 1963, it hasn't gotten much better. No. It's by design that they've created spaces where we are no longer seen anymore. They're wiping us out one community at a time, and they're getting away with it. This is gentrification. Franklin Park has been a place where we have built community, and all these things are at risk.
Why is the mayor willing to throw herself on this sword, do or die, for this project? It's not about soccer. It's about the additional profits that can be made in this entertainment complex. It's a disrespect that you would take public parkland and then give it to a private group to control it. And this project is Emmett Till's mama pulling back a curtain. And if people don't look at what's behind that curtain, it's coming to them.
Wow, that was powerful as hell. Tell me, I think about this because Zaina and I were talking for most of the hour about the ICE raids and the more in-your-face removal of immigrants. But it seems to me your documentary is clearly showing that there's been essentially a systematic structural raid to try and remove Black people native to their communities.
Yes, and it's not unique to Boston. This happened. Excuse me. It's not unique to Boston. This happened in Milwaukee, parts of Chicago. San Francisco was probably the best example I think that people should look at for a case study. And ultimately in this documentary, we decided to focus on 4 areas of harm. That's redlining, urban renewal, gentrification, and mass incarceration. And these are the 4 harms that, from talking to residents, I realized were probably the greatest harms that led to this erasure in Boston of Black residents. And the way this all got started were there were activists that were called the Franklin Park Defenders. They reached out to me for a meeting. They wanted to tell me about a new project that's happening right now, and that's the takeover of White Stadium inside of Franklin Park. This project in particular is actually costing the taxpayers in Boston. So taxpayers are paying for this, even though whether they want to or not. At one point, it was projected to be a certain cost, and it continues to increase. So it's a great taking here. And in that conversation with them, I started to realize that this may need to be a bigger project just because it's not just White Stadium. It's a number of projects that have happened in Roxbury and Dorchester. Jamaica Plain, I think, can be its own documentary by itself. But a number of these projects have happened that ultimately, in order for these things to be built, it means that people are going to lose their homes, right? So we learned about that a lot with urban renewal, where the city came in and they decided to demolish housing with the agreement that they would rebuild something nicer, something new. But ultimately, what ends up happening is that those residents that were displaced are not given that opportunity to come back to those neighborhoods that they grew up in. So they were displaced. With Boston in particular, the biggest concern, I would say, was the report that was released a couple of years ago. This was the research that was done by Dr. Sandy Darity, that the net worth of Black Bostonians is $8 and the net worth of white Bostonians is an average of $250,000. When that report was released and it was covered all on local media, there was a sense of embarrassment, I'll be honest with you, here in Boston, because I do know that there's wealth disparities in Massachusetts. We have one of the greatest wealth disparities here. I think that one really made people a little nervous and embarrassed. That's a big difference, $250,000 versus $8. And so I decided to combine all of that, the takeover of White Stadium. Why is it that the average Black family has a net worth of $8 in Boston? And so when you look at those 4 harms that are discussed in the documentary, it all explains it. What I found out through the research and talking to different residents is that there's been constant disruption within these neighborhoods like Roxbury and Dorchester, where the city has come in with different policies that were supposed to make things better in those neighborhoods, but it actually ended up leading to more displacement. And now ultimately what you see in Boston, is similar to what you're seeing in some of the areas in Brooklyn, like Bed-Stuy is having some gentrification. This is also happening in Chicago and just other urban areas. I would also caution people about New Orleans. After Hurricane Katrina, a lot of investors came in and they bought that land that was ruined because of the hurricane. And some of the people that were displaced from New Orleans cannot afford to move back there because of that, right? So they go into areas that are cheaper and more affordable, and they purchase land there and they build things, whether it's stadiums, whether it's the high-rise condos, which I think we see a lot of that happening over the past couple of years. And ultimately, the people who grew up in those neighborhoods can't afford to stay there, so they're displaced. So what you see with the Black population is that for the first time, I think since the 1950s, the new article is saying the Black population in Massachusetts is now higher outside of Boston than in Boston. So Black residents are being pushed to places like Brockton, Avon, Totten's another one. These are areas south of Boston, which means you now have a much longer commute. So it's happening in Boston, but it's happening all across the country, and it's definitely a big concern.
What did you find? Because I find in communities that I've seen gentrification, there's always this unholy cabal between the politicians, the real estate developers, sports team CEOs. In Boston in particular, Massachusetts overall and Boston within that kind of have a reputation as like a liberal state, a liberal city, great liberal values. There's a difference between liberal and leftist. But from what it sounds like, you have these liberals. I mean, Boston's mayor is supposedly a progressive that are basically doing the bidding of real estate developers. So did you find, like, within your research and reporting, that the so-called liberal and people by their reputations, you would think are, trying to deliver policies that are advantageous to the Black community, are the ones most selling out the Black community?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Mayor Wu, in particular, when she ran for office, her number one issue was the housing issue. We're going to fix the housing issue. We're going to create more affordable housing. We can talk about that in just a second, about what it really means when they say affordable housing, because that's discussed in the documentary as well. But her, like Marty Walsh before her, and even Mayor Menino, who was mayor for over 20 years in Boston, all of them, at the end of the day, they do the bidding of the real estate investors, these developers. And these are people that are potential donors for their political careers down the road. Mayor Wu has received a lot of attention during the Trump administration because she's been very vocal against what ICE is doing, and very vocal against Donald Trump. Recently, she just said, no, I'm not going to do what Zoran did. I don't want to go to DC to sit down and meet with Donald Trump. So I think some people are surprised that this is happening under her, but people have to understand, again, I think at the end of the day, a lot of times these developers, when they come into the city and they say, we have this plan and we want to build, let's use the stadium example. That's the best example, I think. We want to renovate the stadium. We want to make it bigger and better for everybody in the area to use. Oftentimes, the proposal is not what the outcome ends up being, because in the beginning with White Stadium, the proposal is that this is going to be able for use by the public and also the U.S. women's soccer team. So for those who aren't aware, they want to bring a U.S. women's soccer team to Boston. We have 4 professional teams here. We don't really need another one, but that's a whole other conversation. But they want to bring them here. And these developers who have ties to the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Celtics, they're connected in that way. One of the investors in particular, her husband works for the Boston Celtics. So they're very well connected. The way it was proposed is that we're going to use the stadium part of the time for the U.S. women's soccer team, and then the other time it'll still be available for the public. That's not what's happening. So they introduce one plan, but then ultimately there's a takeover that happens. A White Stadium was for the public. That's for Boston Public Schools. So The schools that are in that area, when they have football games, track meets, those things happen at White Stadium. The stadium has been taken away. I don't want to give too much away, but the stadium has been demolished. These kids have nowhere to go for track meets, nowhere to play the football games. And now we're seeing the original price tag is increasing more and more as time goes by. It's now at over $100 million to build this entertainment complex that they want to build. And when we talk about stadiums, some people may not be aware, but some of these cities that have created new stadiums, a lot of times those stadiums were created in what were once Black neighborhoods, and they demolish those areas, they clear it out, and then they build something new. You can see this decades ago with the highway plan, right? So one of the things we focus on with urban renewal is these plans that were implemented to bring highways through Black neighborhoods back during like the 60s, 70s. And so what a lot of cities like Boston did is that they cleared out the housing that was in the way, as they put it, so that they can have this highway go through that part of the city in a Black neighborhood. But ultimately what happened, when you look at cities like Boston and Milwaukee, also Detroit, those highways were never built. And those highways would have created a barrier. It would have increased segregation. So you'd have this barrier around the Black neighborhood and the rest of the city. So people were displaced for nothing. So it's a problem, and gentrification has continued to increase, at least since I have lived here.
Jordan, can I ask Sabby a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I loved your documentary. I know I messaged you. I was like, this is amazing. It was so good. And I've been telling everyone about it. But one of the things that stuck out to me was the way you guys dig back into history. Like you were just discussing from all the way back to, what was supposed to be the Reconstruction era to how it folded into eroding Black neighborhoods specifically and targeting Black neighborhoods and urban renewal to today. Can you tell me a little bit about, the $8, the $8 divide with like 250,000? I can relate to that a little bit with being from Appalachia. I understand. Can you tell me a little bit about, and you don't have to go too much into it because I want people to see the documentary, but what kind of impact does urban renewal have on generational wealth? What are some of the things people told you about the constantly having to move? Because some generations maybe had to move 2, 3, 4 times, in the last 2 generations of families. So they're unable to create any kind of a generational wealth. What kind of stories did you hear about that?
Yeah, so Rod Serling, his story, I think, is really heartbreaking. He's one example, but a lot of Black families, like when they were moving into areas like Roxbury, these were thriving communities at one point in time. And a lot of people did own their home. People don't know this, but if you look at the brownstones in the South End, which has the gentrification in the South End is probably the worst of the worst that I've seen. But at one point, Black families used to own those brownstones in the South End. They were taken away. So what happened to people like Rod Serling is that his family did own their home. And when urban renewal started, the city said, we have to demolish these units here, and we're going to put you in an apartment. So you are now taking home ownership away from a family that had it, and you're putting them in an apartment for them to rent. And oftentimes what I found through the research is that these families were not offered what their home was really worth, so that they could buy another home. So that's part of it as well. But now that's generational wealth that you no longer have. You're starting all over. So imagine someone taking your home away from you and telling you, but you can have this apartment instead. You have to start all over again. So the urban renewal policies, which happen in major cities throughout the country, that also took away, to Zeneb's point, the potential for generational wealth. That's part of the reason why that net worth gap is so intense. That's part of the reason why the average Black family is at $8 instead of $250,000 when compared to the white families in Boston. When there is constant disruption in the community, in the neighborhood from outside forces, Every time there is disruption, you have to begin again. And that requires resources and that requires support. And ultimately, what I found, unfortunately, is that when it came to Boston's Black residents, that those resources and that support, it wasn't there.
Did you find, I'm curious, specifically about the people that were displaced, because this is all over the country when you have these mega new sports stadiums, which, by the way, the taxpayers are paying for, and we're subsidizing billionaires. You're displacing people for, in some cases, 4 or 5 blocks to not just build the stadium, but the parking lots and the shopping centers and restaurants around it. Did you find that people that were displaced in these communities were, given extra financial incentive to do it, other than just putting them in another apartment, for the trouble of displacing them? And weren't these people who were displaced also at times having to pay for their own displacement because taxpayers were having to pay for a lot of these sports stadiums?
Correct. Some people were given vouchers. Here's a voucher for Section 8 housing in Brockton. Here's a voucher for Section 8 housing in Taunton. But it's just a voucher. And then the problem that you run into as well, you're taking a home away from someone that owned that home, and now you're putting them in this Section 8 complex. That in itself puts them at, I would say, a disadvantage from trying to create any type of generational wealth. Because the reality is, for the affordable housing that's here, there's income restrictions. So anytime that you go above that income restriction, let's say you got a promotion at your job and you go above that income restriction, you no longer meet the requirements to stay there. So now you have to move and you have to find another apartment, which is the market rate, right? So you're not going to get that reduced rate that you would get for Section 8 housing. It basically puts you in this box. Do I try to get another job or get a promotion so I can make more money, so maybe I can try to save up and put a down payment on a house? Or do I not make more money so that I know I'm going to have this guaranteed Section 8 housing? And that's ultimately what people are up against, right? So the reality is, if you get that promotion and you're making more money, and then you have to pay the market rate for the market rate rent for apartments, well, now it's going to be even more difficult for you to save money to put a down payment on a house. And the reality is, for those who have not been here, home ownership here is very expensive in the Boston area. We caught a break during the pandemic because the interest rates decreased significantly. And that's when a lot of us were able to, get our way into the housing market. But come 2021, those rates started to increase again. And now I think you're lucky if even 30 minutes outside of Boston, if you can find a single family home that's under $700,000, that's a 3-bedroom house.
That's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
I'm curious also, as far as the people you spoke with, does this displacement, what's the connection? Because your documentary focuses on mass incarceration as well. But what's the connection you found from this gentrification, mass displacement, and violence?
Yeah. So when we talk about disruption, that constant disruption, that's not just physical, trauma that people are dealing with, but that's psychological trauma that people deal with. One gentleman I interviewed in particular, Mac Hudson, his story is very, very heartbreaking. And that's why we saved that for the end, because I wanted him to be able to tell his full story, what happened to him with mass incarceration. Ultimately, when some of these laws were changed and they decided to try juveniles as an adult, that impacted people like Matt Hudson, who was actually innocent. And ultimately, all of these policies that were implemented, they're done in such a way to remove the population from the areas that are productive. A lot of people don't know this, but at one point, Black people used to live in downtown Boston. Black people used to live in Beacon Hill, which is one of the wealthy neighborhoods in Boston. It's very popular if you come here as a tourist. That used to be a Black neighborhood too. That's why the African American History Museum is in Beacon Hill, because when slaves were trying to escape, One of those, refuges that they found was Beacon Hill in Boston. So what the city has done via policy is they've constantly found ways to move the Black population further and further away from the areas that are productive. And by productive, what I mean is Boston proper. That's where most of the jobs are. If you live in Boston, that's Back Bay, that's Beacon Hill, that's downtown, those areas that you'll see if you come here as a tourist. A lot of the jobs are not in Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, Dorchester, and of course, like even further south of Boston. So you now have a longer commute. So if you ever come to Boston, one of the biggest complaints I hear from people who come here for the first time, they're like, where are all the Black people? There are Black people in Boston, but there's a sense of hyper segregation here. And the reality is, unless you are to go into those neighborhoods like Roxbury or Dorchester, you're less likely to see us in downtown Boston because a lot of us just don't have jobs in that area. And that's also something that is discussed, how Black people were kept out of city jobs in Boston for decades. And it was people like Mayor Menino and people like the NAACP that filed lawsuits that came forward and said, we have to change something here. So I think a lot of times it's easier to look at the South and see like the racist policies that existed there. It's very much a part of our history. I learned this in school as well. But we also had these, what I call structural racism, that was implemented in the Northeast. And a lot of times I think that's not talked about.
And I'm curious what you kind of observed from the psychological perspective, because in my experience, Flint comes top of mind. People asked even 8-9 years later, like, why aren't they still protesting? Why aren't they out on the streets? The water's still bad. No one's in jail. And I had to say, well, if you've been poisoned and basically left to die, we're all humans. You might lose the fight after a while and just be beaten down. And I've seen that a little bit too with gentrification, whether it's people just, choosing not to vote anymore or not really get involved with electoral politics or even just the political process whatsoever. From the people you spoke with, there's definitely activists that you spoke with, but others you spoke with, what's their mentality? Do they have any optimism that it could improve? Or has the system kind of beaten them down to the point where they're kind of just apathetic at this point?
For many, the system has beaten them down. A lot of them have lost hope. A lot of them don't participate in electoral politics. In fact, like going back a couple years ago, when I was interviewing people at some of these apartment complexes where they had like black mold and everything was just falling apart. These were apartment complexes that were technically should have been taken care of by the Boston Housing Authority. And so the BHA wasn't doing their job, right? So when you contact these offices, and some of these people work in 2 jobs, and you take the time that you have in that day to contact those organizations that are supposed to come in and fix these problems, and you just get passed around from one staff member to another, after a certain amount of time, you just give up. I saw that recently with the recent mayor election with Mayor Wu. She had a challenger this time. It was Josh Kraft, and he's very much from the billionaire Kraft family. Like his father is Robert Kraft. They also want to create more things here for the wealthy to enjoy. He was against the takeover of White Stadium, but at the same time, his father wants to create a soccer stadium in Everett, Massachusetts, which is also a working class area. And it's just, the message has been loud and clear. Marty Walsh was the first person to say it out loud, that he wants Boston to be a place for people that are wealthy, where wealthy people can come and live here and make the city, I guess, grow. And they have this vision of Boston being like the next New York. They really do want it to be a world-class city. And a lot of the policies that have been implemented, it supports people like that, wealthy people moving into the city, wanting the college graduates to stay in Boston and make this their home instead of moving to New York and DC, which a lot of them would usually do. They end up going to other cities to work. And the reality is, when you look at that net worth of $8, they're not creating a city for Black Bostonians. They're just not. They really want this to be like a world-class city that people have a lot of respect for, but also that people want to come to and spend money. At the end of the day, it's all about money.
Sounds like they want to make it a yuppie city to me.
Yeah, it's very, I will tell people this. If you've never been to Boston, but you've seen movies about Boston, I would dismiss those movies. Movies like The Town, The Departed, Good Will Hunting, that's not Boston today. That's old Boston. I think if you come here for the first time, you might be kind of surprised, unless you do like a duck tour, you might be kind of surprised that you don't really hear the Boston accent that much. That's a big reveal, because a lot of those people that grew up in Boston they just can't afford to live here anymore, or they were forcefully removed.
Right. I'm curious. I'm curious from just a logistical perspective. I don't think people realize how much goes into making a documentary, especially if you have a full-time job. Can you kind of take people behind the scenes? How long did you work on this? It's up on your channel, by the way. We put the link in the description under this. Everybody should watch it for sure. I've only not watched it because my child's not sleeping and I'm exhausted, but I will watch it. But just tell people how long went into this. When did you first get the idea, and anything they should know?
I started the interviews in April. And that actually was the easiest part about the documentary. And I thought it would be the most difficult, just finding people who want to speak up. But I guess because of the topic, people were readily available and said, yes, I want to talk about this. So that was the easiest part, were the interviews, meeting with people. I think what took me the longest was finding the historical information. A lot of the photos that are shown, some of the videos, that information wasn't really readily available. And when I talk about erasure, it's not even just displacing people, it's also the history. It was very hard to find the thriving Black Roxbury that a lot of residents experienced in the libraries, even online. When I looked into this information, I just continued to see photos about the busing riots, right? And the Boston Globe, they own a lot of that stuff. So I had to go through licensing processes with the Boston Globe just to get the license permission to have those photos. And then a lot of the other photos, Northeastern University, which is a part of the gentrification in Roxbury, somehow, some way, they were able to get ownership of that old Black Roxbury that existed. So I had to go to their archives and go through different boxes of photos to find the ones that really fit what we were talking about. I also reached out to some of the Roxbury residents to ask them, do you have pictures of this? And because White Stadium has been removed, I had to go to residents to ask them for pictures of White Stadium before it was demolished, right? So that's what took the most time. And then the editing, which I have to shout out Scott Hanshew. Scott Hanshew, he knew that I wanted to do a documentary. He reached out to me. Fantastic editor. He went above and beyond. I did not expect the level. I really did not expect it to turn out the way that it did. Nothing against him. It's just he went above and beyond of what I could have imagined. So he has like excellent skills, and he put all of that together. The graphics, a lot of those things that you see, that was the work of Scott. Sophia, I have to shout her out because she was the illustrator. Because we couldn't find some of those old photos, we had to use illustrations for some of the stories that were told. So it's a long process. Jordan, I'm sure, as you can imagine, like putting all of that together, it took a long time. And I can definitely see like why it takes some people like years to create a documentary.
Artistically, you guys did an amazing job. I watched and I was the animations were brilliant. The way you guys put the history and laid the history out, it's a must see because of that. It takes you on a real journey, step by step, as to how this happens. And to be honest, it's one of the first documentaries I've ever seen about urban renewal that digs into it in this story narrative and really takes you through it step by step. So I was very, very impressed, Sabby. It was awesome. You and your team did an amazing job.
And I'll also shout it out and shout you out because I think in this fucked up cesspool of a media environment where everybody, their mother and dog have a YouTube channel, podcast. Everyone's now an influencer, which I don't even like that term. These are not the type of stories that algorithms prop up. I mean, let's just be honest. Substance does not always thrive. I mean, I've done Flint for a decade. If I put Flint in a headline, it tanks. Not because people don't care, but it's just algorithms don't favor that kind of stuff. So to put this kind of time into an important topic like this, knowing that it's, you know, it's not going to be watched or listened to like a Joe Rogan type audience, shows your passion. And I would encourage everyone, and we'll post this separately, to watch it, because it's, like you said, it's well beyond Boston. I mean, this has been going on really for 50, 60 years in America. I mean, from the development of highways, and the displacement of, I mean, Black people, Hispanic people, Indigenous people, to sports stadiums, to colleges. God knows how many colleges have displaced and been one of the core drivers of gentrification. And those are white folks involved.
And now AI data centers and, you know, these new bro-oligarchy cities that they want to build. So
yeah,
just evolving it.
So everybody should watch it. Any parting thoughts? What you got? What you want people to know? I would also ask you, what would you like, kind of, for lack of a better phrase, if we have any wine moms in the audience, you know, hardcore libs, because a lot of people think like, oh, everything went to hell just because of Trump, and sadly, it's horrible now. But it's been this way. Both parties, doesn't matter, and they're all driving these economic decisions that are, frankly, pushing people out, specifically in your documentary, out of Boston. But what would be your message to people who maybe their eyes are opening up now to more of the corruption, particularly within the Democratic Party? But what message do you want them to get from this?
I think you have to hold politicians accountable. Please pay attention to what's happening with your local politicians as well. Not just Congress. Mayor Wu is one of those mayors who's not unreachable, believe it or not. I spoke with her in person about 3 years ago, and it was about this issue. It was about the housing issue. And she promised me that they were going to dedicate $50 million to Mildred C. Haley apartment complex, and they were going to renovate that and make it nice. Why is my friend being displaced? You know, so she's not one of those people that's unreachable. Some are. But I do think that you have to hold them accountable regardless of what party they're a part of. And at the end of the day, like, you do have to realize that a lot of these people are in bed with big money and big developers, regardless of how great of a game they talk when they're campaigning. I would like to see more removes. I would like to see, I'm pretty sure a documentary could be made about Harlem. I would like to see Harlem, San Francisco, Detroit, Milwaukee. I would like to see New Orleans would be a really good one. There's gentrification happening right now in Atlanta, which I think isn't talked about as much. A lot of people may not realize that, but it's happening all across the country in these metropolitan areas. So I would like to see more. Like, I encourage anybody else out there, your area, your city, I would like to see more removed documentaries.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sabrina. Everybody go subscribe to Sabby Sabs YouTube channel. You're on a couple nights a week at 8 o'clock, right?
Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
And the documentary is up on your channel. Can people find it elsewhere or just on your channel?
It's on my channel, on the homepage under documentary. It's called Remove Black Erasure in Boston. And if you're in the Boston area, we are going to do 2 more public screenings of the documentary in person. So if you just follow me, I'll be sure to update you about that information via my newsletter and also on my show. And
once I am back on the ground, 2 young kids have kept me a little limited, but I did want to do another gentrification tour. So I'm probably going to now have to stop in Boston because you've piqued my interest. Definitely keep us posted if you're working on other things like this, because at the end of the day, folks, we live in an economic Hunger Games. It's starting to hit the poor white people too. It's starting to hit all shades, old. I mean, I can't tell you how many senior citizens who, the boomers definitely had it better than us, but how many seniors are messaging me like I'm close to eviction, I'm eating ramen noodles, I'm having to skip meals. So we're all getting screwed. But this focus specifically on gentrification of Black communities is sorely needed. So thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Take care.
Thanks, Sabby.
And definitely the link both to the trailer and the full documentary is in the description. Please tune in if you have some downtime around the holidays. Don't just watch it, share it. Because honestly, on social media, these algorithms are all fucked, but like word of mouth also matters. So I could tell you from the documentaries we've done on Flint, it was incredibly hard to get traction on it. Not because people don't care, but we're just submerged with content. People have only so much attention span. So it's super, super important for things that matter. And I think her documentary is really important. Spread it.
And it's a fantastic watch too. On top of that, not only is it informative, but it's a fantastic watch. The artwork in it was stunning. I loved it. And
go get tomorrow the first chapter of Zaina's great book on the rise and fall of the Bernie movement. I'm gonna get it because I lived it. Honestly, I was out there in the Woodstock days of 2016 and in the dark scar ticks over the Lion Kingdom days of 2020.
Some of these stories are going to be very familiar to you, Jordan.
I'm sure. I want to give some shout outs here. Tony D, $2. Major respect to JT and John on the ground. If you came to this late, while I've been live, I'm hearing that ICE has now threatened John again and threatened to pepper spray him. So we're trying to turn around the footage. So definitely look out for that tonight. Leave Me Alone became a YouTube member. I like that. Gene gifted 5 YouTube members. Thank you so much, Gene. Austin gifted 1 YouTube membership. Thank you, Austin. Shout outs to new Status Coup members through our website. Emily signed up. Mark signed up. Virginia signed up. I'm going to make one last pitch.
That's awesome.
I'm going to make one last pitch, folks. It's up to you. We could only grow this thing and specifically be on the ground as long as you take us. It's incredibly expensive to do on-the-ground reporting. Like I said, John is still on the ground. JT had to go home to Wisconsin. He's got a newborn and his wife was sick, so he had to go help out with the kid. He might be going back to Minnesota this weekend. So we're trying to stay out on the ground, but we cannot print money like the Pentagon or the federal government. So we need our funding to come from you. I would much rather beg you, the working masses and the proletariat, than corporate vampires. I ain't begging United Healthcare, Goldman Sachs, or any of the usual suspects. I am not beyond begging the people. So if you can, before you spend money on the holidays, $5 a month. You could support us for as low as $5 a month. StatusCoup.com/join. Thanks for the super chat, Austin Schofield, $5. You could also donate as well. So if you're already a member but want to support us additionally, you could support us, StatusCoup.com/donate. Sometimes that's the difference each month between breaking even.
And if you go there, instead of the membership down here, less of the alphabet gets a cut. So more of it goes to actual reporting.
And thank you for mentioning that. If you signed up through YouTube, that's fine. I'm not going to, I'd love you to cancel.
We're not going to be mad at you.
Yes. But just so you know, when you sign up on YouTube, number one, I don't have access to your email. We do want to get your email, not to spam you and beg you for money every day, but we do send out emails when we're live on the ground. We do investigative reports that you'll get an email with the report, behind the scenes content. But most importantly, you don't want your whole company to be at the mercy of YouTube, who regularly just nukes channel for no reason. So if everybody signed up as a member through YouTube and one day they get rid of us for whatever arbitrary reason, we're fucked. If most of our paid members are through YouTube, because again, we don't have your email if you sign up through YouTube. But if we have your information through our website, we're pretty solid. So that's why we ask people to sign up to our website. If you sign up through YouTube and don't mind, canceling there, signing up to the website, that would be great. StatusCoup.com/join. Thank you, Zaina. Thank you, Colin.
Thanks for having me, Jordan.
Be on the lookout. We're going to try to turn around this video soon of John being threatened by ICE in Minneapolis. We'll see you back here tomorrow.